when people are crunching a lot of the time, like it is because they had a choice and because they chose to do it, and stuff like that. But obviously, like there is a point which Schreier made, which is, like, are they going to be given the same opportunities later on and things like that? Hey everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest, a long overdue Polygon Forest because we've been away for a couple of weeks. I am Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill, and I am joined as ever by the indie developer himself, Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello there.
Hello there. So,
Hello.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. We've been busy with not only work stuff, but like I know Chris went on holiday. How was that, by the way? Do you have a nice time?
Yeah, I went to the seaside. It was lovely. Yeah, had a great time. Lovely meals, lovely people, lovely coastline. Yes, it's been great. And you've had a wedding and some other bits and bobs as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get married. Like, I got married like 5 years ago. But yeah, I went to a wedding. But mostly just busy as hell. Like, just I'm doing work on the side at the moment, and it's like it's taking up a lot of my time. Just working on the side project. So it's it's going. No, stuff is happening. It's just I look forward to the days where I can play a lot more video games.
Have a weekend back.
Yeah, and like also like play some video games and get some sleep. That'd be nice. Like if I could get to that point again, that'd be One day.
Oh, poor Vin.
We'll get there. But yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah, so we're back after a few weeks, and the Gamescom has been happening. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about some tweets from blokey mate. What's his name? Glen Schofiled.
Glen Schofiled, yeah. Like he's said some stuff. Like
he said some stuff.
Which,
talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about Gamescom, I guess, and then maybe Sony owing us all 500 quid, possibly.
Yeah, and there was a it's just the UK Commission this week is like having a field day with the games industry, I guess. But like they're talking about like looking into the Microsoft acquisition, so we might touch on that at some point as well. But yeah, we'll get around to that.
Should we do the naughty tweets?
Naughty tweets. Yeah, we can do that. So do you want to explain, lay it up for us so we know?
So Glen Schofiled, who he is, what's he do again? So he's Striking Distance CEO, and he's the Callisto Protocol director as well. So he's what you were saying before. He's a veteran. He's been in it since day naught.
Yeah.
And he did a tweet that got taken down pretty quickly, and then he did a half-assed apology. I shall read out the tweet so that we all know what the tweet was. This was brought to attention to Twitter from Jason Schreier.
What are the odds?
What are the odds? And then things have,
Wait a minute. So
again.
if it's Jason Schreier, then it's got to be something to do with like unions or something, right? Like it's got to be because that's Jason Schreier's like shtick, and like he's not in the games industry, but he's advocating for it constantly.
He's calling this weaponized passion, which I think is true. This is the tweet. I only talk about the game during an event. We are working 6 to 7 days in a week. Nobody's forcing us. That's an interesting point. Exhaustion, tired, COVID, but we're working. Bugs, glitches, perf fixes. One last pass through audio. 12 to 15 hour days. This is gaming. Hard work. Lunch, dinner, working. You do it because you love it.
Yeah, he's just trying to like fit more words in, I guess. You do it because you love it, yeah.
And then Jason Schreier, I'll just read his response as well.
Yeah.
This from a studio head. Is crunch culture defined? Of course, nobody is forced to work insane hours. But imagine the reduced bonus and lack of promotion opportunities if you don't. You do it because you love it is weaponized passion. This is why people burn out of gaming. So, what are your initial thoughts, Vin? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things here. So, it's this whole argument of crunch culture and stuff like is becoming more and more. I don't know. It's becoming more of like a social issue at this point, which I get it and stuff, but it's often fought from the side of people that aren't in the games industry. And the blunt end of it is like there's a lot of people like Glen Schofiled. Like you gotta like, and I've said this to you in the pre-show, but Schofield is like an industry veteran. Like, he's been in the industry a long time. And that's not to say that he's right about everything, but you've got to like look at stuff from
his frame of reference.
Yeah, his frame of reference is like working in the games industry for 30 plus years, and then making games like Dead Space and Call of Duty and things like this, and doing really well with those things. And it's just like, okay, like after like 30 years of just working in this sort of methodology of like, okay, this is how we make games, putting games out, then winning Game of the Year, then winning awards, nobody really like complaining about how they were made a lot of the time. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, by the way. I'm just sort of setting it up. Like, that's his perspective. And then he sort of, like, someone shoves a mic in his face in 2022, he's going to say some stuff, right? Like that people don't agree with in this day and age, especially gamers that don't really understand the process of like how video games are made. To an extent, like Jason Schreier has got a chip on his shoulder about this sort of stuff, and he is always going to sort of go from 0 to 100 on this. And like the fact of the matter is, there's a grey area to all of this on both sides of the fence, especially Schofield's area as well. But you know, it isn't all like this. Like he specifically put in there, and this is the part that I sort of focus on because this is very true, which is we're working 6 to 7 days a week. Nobody's forcing us. That bit is the part which I'm sort of looking at more than anything, because it's,
they should, in my view, they should be forcing you not to work 6 or 7 days a week. They should be forcing you to work 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, because this is the thing. Like, this is where the grey area stuff comes in, because like there's a lot of arguments which you see from gamers online, which is crunch culture good or bad sort of thing. It's obviously bad in like the broad stroke of a brush sort of sense, but in reality it's not that simple. Like, there's a lot of people out there, like, people don't like hearing this, but it's true. There's a lot of developers out there that like crunching. I said it, like, it's true. And there's a lot of people that obviously, like, people that as they get older, they get families, they get tired.
It's usually younger men that don't have any commitments.
I absolutely agree. And it's when they start getting more commitments and responsibilities, they get older, they get a wife and kids, things like this, or they get a husband and kids and stuff like that. Obviously, like, I'm not sort of generalizing this just towards men, because there's plenty of women that might like crunch culture as well. There's that side of it that we have to sort of look at. So like, when people are crunching a lot of the time, it is because they had a choice and because they chose to do it. And stuff like that. But obviously, like, there is a point which Schreier made, which is, you know, like, are they going to be given the same opportunities later on and things like that? But that, in a sense, is sort of, while that is a valid,
difficult to quantify, isn't it? When
it's impossible to quantify.
And you think this person A always crunches, person B never crunches. Like, on paper, you're not allowed to take into consideration that fact, but you subconsciously know it. And when you're going to be employing someone for a job that you know is going to be working longer hours than is contracted, that is an advantage, isn't it? Like, that person that's working crunch hours has put themselves in an advantage.
Yeah,
so it's difficult to take that out of the equation when you're figuring out who to employ, right?
Yeah, and it's stuff like that, this is a really weird subject to talk about, because it's not cut and dry. It's really not. I wish it was. I really wish it was just like, oh, all crunch culture is bad and we shouldn't do it to anyone. There's people that love it. There's people that will flourish under the idea of having pressure on top of their heads, and there's other people that fall under it. It's just there's different sort of procedures
like
for
me,
that.
That
sort
crumble at the slightest bit of pressure.
And there's absolutely this is the thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, like, at all. Like, makes sense. Like, if you can only work 8 hours a day and that's what you've been contracted for, that's all you should be allowed to do, and you should still be able to excel within that framework. Absolutely, without any hesitation. But on the other side of that, like, what happens if someone does want to do a bit of extra, that the younger people that are like stuck in the studio is like, no, we just want to make the best thing that we can. Let's just like go until 4 a.m. Let's just do this, so that everyone's high-fiving, pizza and beer flying across the room. I'm not saying that's what happens. I'm just joking, obviously. But there's my point is, we need to facilitate both of those sides at some point. And the real only logistical way you can do that is by offering them the choice. And that's why I sort of focus on that, because like, that's what a lot of the studios that I've worked at, like, they do the same thing. It's like, hey, and they emphasize it as well. Like, hey, this is not we're not forcing this.
Yeah.
If you want to work like an extra hour, you have to ask for permission from us, and we have to say yes or no based on like the criteria and how much overtime you've done in the past and things like this. And there's so many like hoops that you have to jump through just to be able to do the extra hours. But the point is, it's always optional.
It's duty of care, isn't it? Like 6-7 hour day, 6 or 7 days a week.
Yeah,
that for me is unacceptable. And that's not a duty of care. Like, you need a weekend, right?
Sure. Yeah,
but like an odd hour here and there, like when work needs to get done, and it's taken in consideration what workload you've done, how much downtime you've had. Yeah. Sure. I can understand how there is a grey area, and I think when it's called crunch, it's unhealthy. I think that's the definition, right? When you call it crunch, it's unhealthy.
Yeah,
and
there's a difference between
there's
a difference between crunch and overtime, and this is the problem with people like Jason Schreier. They just automatically go to no, this is crunch like instantly, and it's like no, it's not. Like there's a difference between those two things, dude. Like you can't just automatically label it as that, and you can't automatically assume that everyone agrees with you that it is crunch. Like there's going to be people out there that are sort of they're more lenient towards the idea of like any overtime whatsoever is quote unquote crunch. But like it's interesting that we don't call it that in other industries. You know what I mean? Like why? Like I mean the old school idea of what crunch is basically okay. We don't have enough resources to finish this game, so what we're going to do is just carry on as normal all the way through to production. We get to like the last sort of milestone of production, and then we start crunching everyone. And everyone starts working 7 days a week, like 10-hour days or whatever, just to like get it out the door. And then when it's out the door, then we can sort of give everyone.
You can have a break. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the old school crunch culture. For the most part, that doesn't happen that much in that respect.
It's a failure of time management, isn't it? Ultimately, crunch is a failure of time management because you're
like,
not getting good quality work under those conditions.
Yeah, video games just aren't that cut and dry anymore. Like, I mean, it's not. Like, how do I put this? Like, we're like games are getting more and more complicated to make. We were talking about this in the pre-show as well. Like, the budget's getting bigger. That means more people coming on board. And if you've got a lot more people to handle in a framework that you're sort of used to, like you can sort of mostly navigate through that and manage that effectively. But the products are different every single time. That's the thing. They're not
never making the same game twice.
Yeah, it's never the same thing twice. Yeah,
The Last of Us Part 1.
Right, that's different. And I mean, that's like, has that game had any reported crunch on it? No, because like they probably have actually. It's Naughty Dog. That's all they ever do. Like they do crunch
from day one. It's like day one crunch.
Pretty
that
much.
Means it's nice and consistent.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of horror stories from Naughty Dog, unfortunately, but I'm not saying it's all like that and it's always going to be like that, and it might have changed by now for all I know, but like the stories I've heard from people that have worked there, whenever I've mentioned in the past, like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to work at Naughty Dog, like, no, you really wouldn't want to work there. So there's a lot of whispers and rumors around about how like they manage people, because for the longest time they didn't really have any management there. It was a very flat sort of system, which promotes awesome games at the end of the day, but it doesn't, it's not healthy for the most part. So yeah, I mean,
safeguarding.
Yeah.
It should be part of a manager's tool, right? And games designers, that are artists, that they don't have those inherent skills, and you need to hire those skills in or grow them. Yeah, like put a conscious effort in to grow those skills.
Yeah, to me, like this whole conversation of like the Schofiled tweet is like everything leans on the whole their choice sort of thing, because the argument from Schreier is that would they get the same opportunities?
The argument is that it's weaponized passion, so it's like you shouldn't be passionate about this because it's wrong, and I guess that's a bit of a wrong statement. I guess like it's not weaponized passion, it's misguided passion. And he's saying the wrong thing, and he's putting his foot in it. But
yeah, I'm not agreeing with Schofiled. Just to be clear, but I mean, there's definitely
12 to 15-hour days.
Yeah, that's not ridiculous. Good. There's definitely like something to be said about what Schreier's saying though, which is like the whole idea that people aren't going to get the same opportunities if they don't crunch, sort of thing, which. That should be treated as the separate subject. So people should be given the choice if they want to work overtime, not crunching. There's a difference.
Yeah.
If people want to work overtime, like they should always be given that option. And then if only people that crunched are getting job opportunities, then that needs to be looked at in a vacuum. You know, we need to compartmentalize that issue because it is a separate issue, because we can't compartmentalize, like, if people want to work overtime or crunch or whatever. You know, we really can't, because, like I said, there's a lot of people that enjoy it, there's a lot of people that hate it, there's a lot of people that are sort of indifferent on it, and in between. It's a very grey subject. Like, it's not black or white. So, like, we need to sort of split this up a little bit, like, when conversations happening, because idiots like Schreier that just automatically go to 100, and then there's other people that just go straight to 0 and say, no, it's not, crunching's fine and stuff like that. Then people are idiots as well. But people that just automatically say...
People on the other end that automatically say all crunch is bad. Well, again, I agree with that statement, but I think that overtime is fine.
Yeah.
And I like to make that distinction. Yeah. I guess to me, it's like equality of opportunity is important, and it seems like it's quite easy for the people that crunch have got more work because they're working longer hours. You know, that they've got more chances to appear more, you know, like focused on the game and more like willing to, like, part of the family. Like, we're a family. How much more, you know, you're gonna put your work in towards this common goal and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you've got to be able to take on board, you know, the single parents that have got to do the pickup at 3 and childcare and all this sort of stuff. You've got to make allowances for those, because we're living in this society that says that everyone should have a fair shot, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
You got to.
I mean, and that's
safeguards in.
That's the part which I would sort of focus on, is like, where's the evidence to show? I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist or anything like that. I'm saying, like, we need to see the evidence of people that aren't crunching not getting the opportunities that they deserve. They're the sort of things that I want to see. Like, if that is an actual thing that's happening, we should absolutely be trying to fix that. Absolutely. And it's just like, we shouldn't discourage people from not crunching, sort of thing, because, like, if they physically can't mentally, like, take it, and they end up in hospital over it or whatever, because that's definitely something that can happen. If that is like stopping their opportunities from coming about, then we need to tackle that as a subject, and not just like paint it with this broad brush of just crunch or just overtime in general, because it's a lot more subtle than that. And I wish it wasn't. I really do wish it was a cut and dry thing that we could fix overnight, because if it was, it would have been fixed by now. Really, it would have. But it's not that simple, unfortunately.
And we were talking in the pre-show about younger kids are more productive at like the early hours of the morning as well.
That too. And
so the younger you are, the more likely you are to be able to work in that flow state in the early hours of the morning. And there's also a lot of work and research going on about uninterrupted work as well. Mm-hmm. And I think I saw an interesting GDC talk about people where initially, when they're setting up a studio, they want these open plan offices so that everyone can work together and anyone can just drop in and ask questions and have a very flat system, like you say. So everyone feels like they're all equal and they're all in it together. But that means that a lot of people are getting interrupted throughout their working day. Could be for a good reason, but there's a lot of research to suggest that every time you get interrupted, you're knocking off 15 minutes to half an hour worth of productivity. Like, if there's studies to suggest that if you don't get interrupted and you just work for a few hours, you get more work done than if you work and get interrupted minus the time that you're interrupted for. Yeah. So you're actually more productive if you have time to sit and focus for a few hours on a particular task. I definitely find that. So, like, on a Sunday when I don't have any distractions and I do the editing for the podcast and then upload it and stuff, it's just me on my own and I'm just working away, and it's just, I get it done, and then the time just flies and I'm like, whoa, I was really productive, but the time's just completely gone. And I know that if someone was there talking to me, I wouldn't be able to get it done, or if anyone was asking questions, it really wouldn't get done in the same sort of amount of time. Yeah. So there's those factors as well. But it's good to know that the companies are actually aware of that, and that they can book in. They're looking at like raising flags, or like making an out of office, like a physical out of office, like don't disturb me signs and things, to try and combat that. Which it's kind of coming away from the point of Glen's tweet, but sure, it's kind of part of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a part of the discussion, and and you're absolutely right. Like, in terms of like, people work better at different times of the day as well. That's something else that a lot of people just don't ever sort of talk about ever. Like if you put a programmer in front of a computer, like a good majority of them, if you put a programmer in front of a computer at 10 o'clock in the morning versus 10 o'clock at night, I guarantee the majority of them will work better at 10 o'clock at night. I guarantee it. Like it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just a programmer thing, but like I've seen it over and over again across multiple studios, different industries. I'm not saying like in the studios that I've even worked in, people work at 10 o'clock at night, but a lot more of the work gets done in the latter half of the day because they need to get into that flow and stuff. And once they're in that flow, they don't really want to get out because they want to get stuff done. And so like we don't talk about that when it comes to crunch culture. It's like, no, they should come in at 9 o'clock in the morning and leave at 5 at night. It's like, that's great if people can do it, but there's a lot of programmers out there that just don't like that sort of style of working. And it's like, okay, we need to start having this discussion if we can shift people's 8 hours to like a different time in the day, so they can come in like later in the day and leave later at night if they so choose. And it's things like this, like that, they're interesting topics to me, like they're interesting solutions. But yeah, there's this, the broad brush is it's not a helpful way to tackle this. But yeah, we should probably talk about like what Schofiled sort of replied with.
His reply was, anyone who knows me knows how passionate I am about the people I work with. Earlier I tweeted how proud I was of the effort and hours the team was putting in. That was wrong. We value passion and creativity, not long hours. I'm sorry to the team for coming across like this. I think he meant exactly what he wrote.
He didn't write this. This is a PR thing. You can always like there's one little giveaway that this is written by someone else and not him. And it's always the same sentence that they always use in every single one of these.
What is it?
That was wrong. Like, oh, we need to admit what we've done. Like it's just a PR move. Like you always see this. Like, this is what I did.
Identify what was wrong,
and then you need to
draw
say
a line
it was
under
wrong.
what was wrong.
Put a line under it, and then say like what you actually meant, sort of thing. He didn't write this. Which is fine. Again, like you put a mic in a dude's face that's been in the industry for over 30 years, like stuff's gonna come out like this. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough. What's your take on this? On the reply?
It comes across ingenuine, like not genuine. I don't believe that's. I think he meant what he said in the tweet, and I think that's who he is, and I think he's wrong, and it just doesn't. It's not like he's gone. There's been an outcry, and it's made me think, is there something wrong with this? And then I've actually looked at it, and I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to glorify 12 to 15 working hours was good, and I didn't mean to glorify that, 6 to 7 days a week was good. He didn't go into detail. Like you should explain things more, not just say, I was wrong. Yeah. It's kind of like too easy. Like, I want to know more about what he thinks, not this.
So I mean, because like because I know what he was trying to say. He wasn't trying to glorify like working over hours and stuff. What he was trying to basically say is like, hey, we are super passionate right now. We are getting stuff done. Like this is how much we're working on this because this is how much we care. That's what he was trying to say. And people just automatically like clocked on to the amount of hours, which rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sort of dismissing that, but I think his intent was more to say we're super passionate about this project and we're kicking ass on it right now, sort of thing. That's what he was trying to like. That was the feeling that he was going to give. And instead, like this whole diatribe from Jason Schreier comes out, which is
which is the opposite. I even think that like saying that you're proud of the work, the amount of time that the team have put in, I think that's kind of wrong. I disagree with that.
Right.
I don't. If you've got to the point where your team is putting in those long hours, I think there's a failure there, and I don't think that should be something that you should be proud of. Like, you should be thankful for the team, but it's not something that you should take pride in, because I see it as a failure. Like, you failed at your job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you've had to resort to that. Yeah. I mean, you can be happy with them, but I just think pride is the wrong emotion to feel.
Yeah, I guess like I'm trying to put my like my mind into like where Schofield is. Like if you're trying to like explain to a fan base, I guess, like, and you're trying to quantify passion,
how happy you are with the team, and you can't quantify passion. I get that.
How are you able to do that other than through like the time that they put in? Because you can be like, the kicking butt right now, like we're super passionate about this and we're doing awesome work.
Pride of the results, pride of the people you're working with,
Right.
pride of what they've come up with. Time frame doesn't need to come into it, does it?
Right, exactly. And I think like he
results.
just used the wrong quantifier, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough, man.
Quality of work should be the quantifier. And when you crunch and you work longer than like 11 hours in a day or something, there's scientific fact to prove that you're working the equivalent to like you've had a couple of drinks, like reaction times and stuff. It's just, and your concentration all goes down the pan.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a funny old discussion. Yeah, I mean, Schofield should have known better. That's for sure. I'm not disputing that whatsoever.
It's a bit of a rookie error, especially in this day and age, isn't it?
Yeah, like I say, he's just an old school guy.
It's just old school.
I mean, because 5 years ago this wasn't a problem. You know what I mean? Like if he wrote that tweet, like there'd be a bunch of people liking and retweeting it. Like they're super passionate. Because like I mean I can speak from my own personal experience. Like when I was like before we went to university and stuff. Like back in the day when I was like still in college, like learning how to do multimedia or whatever. Like I thought I was gonna be like be making websites for a living or something. When I was doing that, like when I first watched the documentary to Halo 2, and like if you watch that documentary, it's very hard to watch now in this day and age. But
a bit cringy now.
Yeah, it's a bit cringy now, just purely because it is that sort of
the bro culture,
right? A bunch of young guys, and because that's what the industry was back then. Like there's no like we cannot ignore that. Like that's just what it was. It was a bunch of young guys making Halo 2. Working late into the night, and I remember seeing like there was one shot of like one guy that was asleep on his desk, and to me when I saw that I was like, I want to do that. I don't want to like crunch or anything, but I want to be a part of a team where I'm so passionate about something that I'm willing to like put time and effort into it versus like working at Nando's. Like no offense to Nando's, it was just
you love Nando's, yeah. So
and it's like that's what drew me to it was that like sort of, and it's the same thing with like military stuff as well, right? It's the same masochistic sort of style
also,
stuff. But yeah,
from a safety point of view as well, if you were to fall asleep at your desk at Nando's, you would end up with some very nasty burns.
That's fair. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. Like tech and IT. That's safer to fall asleep at your job. Yeah.
But I mean, like saying that though, like even though that drawn me into the games industry originally, I was like, that's what I want to do. Like now that I'm 35, I'm a lot older. It's just I'm
like your sleep.
Yeah. I'm at that point now. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to work more than 8 hours a day. It like things change, and we like when we have these sorts of discussions in the future, like we just need to sort of recognize the fact that who are we talking about here? Like I would like to see a picture of Schofield's team. You know, like, is it a bunch of younger people? Because if that's the case and they're working 15-hour days and that is literally their choice and they were like sort of sat down, they went through all the same hoops as what I have to go through if I want to do any overtime at my job. Yeah. Then should we stop them from doing that? Like, that's the question.
We need to figure out where the safety barrier. I guess we just need to know where is the safe limits of the bottom denominator working, like the weakest person, like the person that's got like health issues, how safe it is for them to work.
But should you I know, but like my question is like if we find that and it's like, okay, that's not a second over 8 hours, right? So let's say for argument's sake, people that absolutely cannot work over 8 hours. What if there's like the other 90% of the studio? I'm over exaggerating, obviously it's not actually going to be that. Yeah. What if like 90% of the studio is just like, no, I want to work more hours. I want to work 12 hours a night because I'm super, like I really want to get this game done and it's my first game. I'm young, like I've got no like responsibilities. Like we can just eat pizza and plow through this thing, right? Yeah. Like, do we stop them from doing it? That's the question.
They'd have to sign like a legal waiver to say like if you have any health issues off the back of working this overtime.
But I mean, even after all that, like, okay, like they signed the waiver, like they've been through all these hoops with HR and stuff, and they've been like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you're not going to be stopped. Like, it doesn't stop any of their opportunities, all that sort of stuff. After all them hoops, should they still be allowed to do it?
I guess I'm not. I guess I don't have CEO blood in me because I would be like, no, it's not worth the profit. Like, it's just money. Like, it's time and money. So, and if you have to, I force you to go home at the end of the day, and that's your biggest problem in the world. Oh, my work isn't letting me work longer hours and having this bro culture. Don't care. No.
Oh, fair enough.
That's me. But that's just because, maybe that's just me. I'm overly cautious. I just could not handle anyone having any. I just couldn't handle being in charge of people and then becoming ill because of what I'm paying them to do.
Yeah, it's more like, I guess for me, I don't know, we disagree on this a little bit, which is fine. I think for me, it's more about giving the choice certain people.
Yeah.
So if,
but I'm for overtime. Overtime under the right conditions.
Yeah. Of course, that's much what we're talking about anyway. Like the whole idea of like everyone just working 8 hours until like the last couple of months of production is just, it's nuts. Like we shouldn't be doing that.
I guess the thing is, I don't think it is 8 hours. I think that like you could probably do an extra hour or two. Like I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's way too much variation in developers and what they like find acceptable a lot of the time, like,
and it's so great, like how many coffee breaks they have in the day, like how much downtime they're having, how are they having the 20 minutes away from the monitor,
like people that smoke and stuff like that, right? Like like that used to drive me, like for like full transparency, I used to work at Nando's, but like the people that used to smoke, like the workers that smoked would go outside like every half an hour and have a 5-minute cigarette break, and it's like, okay, like over time that like they get like an extra hour off.
Yeah.
Whereas the people that didn't, so like I remember one day I like put my foot down about it. I was like, you know what, like I'm instituting coffee breaks, like I'll be outside for 5 minutes sort of thing, and I started doing that. And it's stuff like that we don't really take into account. And then you take into account what you were talking about before, with like the interruptions and things like that. There's a load of like I really do wish it was so cut and dry, but it's
complicated. It's never easy. I
mean, Schofield's an idiot. He shouldn't have said what he said. But at the same time,
but
like
Jason isn't a saint either.
Nah, he's in my opinion, he's the bigger moron. But like that's
his job.
I mean, but it's not like he's got this chip on his shoulder about like the whole industry needs to unionize, and he will not stop until that happens, even though he's not in the industry, and he just ignores everyone that sort of disagrees with him that is in the industry. People like me, but like he's just no, we need to do this. It is a good.
He's got his axe to grind, isn't he?
Yeah.
So,
is that your phone going off? Or mine?
That's yours. Oh no, I think it's mine. Sorry.
Okay, go for it.
I couldn't hear it. No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's nothing. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, you're fine. I could hear the buzz, and I was like, "Is that mine? Is that Chris's?"
In terms of
sorry, go ahead.
In terms of unionizing, I'll start again. In terms of oh my god,
unionizing.
Are you? Do you think there's enough? Do you think we need more? I'm guessing you're not 100% blanket coverage for unions across the whole industry. Where do you think we are?
I don't think we'll ever be at the point where we need to unionize the entire industry. I think it should be a choice of each individual studio as it comes. But for the most part, like, no, like we should absolutely not unionize the entire industry. Like that's crazy. Like, because there's some countries out there that have all of these sort of built-in
safeguards
already sort of built in, and then we've got other places where people just by culture crunch, just work overtime constantly. Like you go to Japan, like I use that as the example. Japanese people work on average 10 hours a day, like versus the 8 that people in the West do, and that's before commutes. And the average commute in Japan is like about 1 hour there and 1 hour back.
Yeah.
So from door to door in Japan, you're normally out from 12 to 14 hours. That's just their culture. That's what they do. That's not right, but it's their culture, sort of thing. We start unionizing the industry, and we start into.
I know we've got all these Japanese game companies that suddenly are out of sync with their culture that they exist in, right?
Right, and and that's a difficult thing to solve.
Is that a good thing though?
Yeah, it might be, but it might also be a terrible thing, because that whole idea of like, okay, you working hard is quantified by how much you work, and that's not games. I'm talking, that's the culture. That's every single job. The more hours you put in, the more harder you're working, quote unquote. Like that's just how it is. Like that's how the culture is. So like, and if you subsection the games industry to do it one way and the rest of the culture does it another, you're just going to start treating games developers as quote unquote lazy. I don't agree with that, but that's the sort of mentality route that we've got to be careful with. So
that would happen if everything was unionized.
Yeah, because you're a games developer. Oh, you must be like, quite lazy if you want to join the movie industry in Japan instead, or if you try and change industries, like that. And we've got to recognize that and sort of deal with that. So like, yeah, no, I don't agree that we should just blanket unionize the entire industry, because it's just like a lot of places don't need it. For the most part, and there's like, if people like crunching and they're in the games industry because they like that sort of stuff, then that's a different thing. It's just a dangerous thing to be able to sort of unionize the entire industry like that, because it just mess with a lot of stuff, in good and bad ways, don't get me wrong. And there are absolutely places like I've heard by like some Sony studios are like really notorious for bad crunch, and it's like, yeah, they probably need a union at some point.
Probably need a unionize. Yeah.
Then there's other places like people don't sing their praises that often, but like Ubisoft don't really do that much crunch, like at all. Like, and they treat people relatively well in terms of like their work-life balance. They don't need to unionize in that respect. But then there's the sexual harassment stuff, and it's like, okay, but there's only like 2 people in the entire like company of 25,000 that actually like did this, who were probably rogue agents in that respect. Should we like unionize just over those 2 people? There's so many questions like that you need to sort of look at. And it's by studio basis, and I think it should be up to the developers themselves. If they vote for it, which that's how unions go, then they should unionize, absolutely. But if they choose not to, then we should respect that and leave it alone. So it's just a matter of like listening to developers. It's something that people don't do enough. Gamers are just constantly attacking developers. And
it's like gamers and journalists have these opinions, don't they? And then they get the narrative that fits their.
Yeah, because like this is the problem. Like, you just nailed it on the head. It's like you get people like Jason Schreier, you get journalists that are pro-union, and then the people that are reading their stories are gamers. And then the gamers are dictating what they should read and write about, so then the journalists reinforce that, so it's gamers, journalists, gamers, journalists. Meanwhile, developers are over here, just like, what the hell are those people doing over there? Sort of thing. Why are they talking about this sort of stuff? That's not what happens.
It's nothing to do with them.
Right. They're not involved in this conversation. And then even when you get like one, for the most part though, but you get like one games developer that agrees with the games developer, there's obviously going to be people on both sides of this fence, and they highlight that sort of like, look at this developer, they agree with my opinion, and then it reinforces the gamers, and then it's just like this cycle. Meanwhile, there's like the majority of the industry are over here with probably a multitude of different opinions about the matter that are just like, where do they even get that from? It's just it's stuff like that's what annoys me more than anything about these cycles of like stories and stuff. It's just like how often the developer is ignored, and our opinions aren't really that important. As long as it fits the narrative, then the only people that are sort of highlighted are the people that agree with the journalists, which isn't all of them.
Yeah, it's shocking to me in this day and age that gamers have such strong opinions about what developers should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Like,
regardless of what the game is about and what's happening, like, gamers have like sometimes really strong opinions on like, oh, you should like both like pro crunch or anti crunch, like in both ways. It's like, oh, just do it. And it's just like, why do you care? Why have you got skin in the game in this? Like, you just want the game, right? Like, focus on that. Or like, you're not a dev, don't worry about it. Like, it's just bizarre. Like, they get riled up about this sort of thing. And I guess you're right. I think the media must be playing a part.
It absolutely is. And like, you look at things like you don't see coffee drinkers like protesting outside of Starbucks, for the workers. Like, that's not a thing. Nobody cares, right? I'm not saying that they shouldn't care. It's just gamers are sort of they treat the games industry much like they treat politics, which is like, it's basically a sport at this point. It's not actually, they don't actually care about the issues a lot of the time. It's just a sport to them. Like, we've got our teams, we've got our jerseys, right? Like, I'm Team Xbox, you're Team PlayStation, Team Nintendo's over there. Oh, we won this month because we got more on the MPD. Like, oh, you're treating your developers bad, so we score a goal. It's a sport. That's it. And like, once you recognize that and you take a step back from it and you see like how gamers react online, it's literally just a big meta game to them. It's It's not real issues a lot of the time.
It's tribes, though. It's the worst part of the sport. It's the tribal aspect, isn't it? Rather than the community aspect. Yeah.
And it's
us
stuff
and
like
them.
that.
Like, you're not in my gang, so therefore you're wrong and you're less value. It's like juvenile.
Yeah, it's really juvenile. It's super pathetic, and it's really sad at the same time, because it's like at the end. Because I remember when we were kids, everything was the games industry.
Great.
The games industry was like
they could do no wrong.
The beacon on the shining hill sort of thing, and like. I'm not saying that was always the case, and it was probably a misjudgment on our side. But like, if people genuinely care about crunch culture and people's welfare at these studios, then how about you don't send them death threats anymore? How about you actually listen to the issues? How about you actually listen to, I don't know, the people that actually make the games, the developers themselves? Like, that'd be cool if you could highlight those a little bit more instead of just the ones that agree with the journalist. That'd be sweet, but they don't, and that's the part that really grinds me about these discussions in particular, is that it seems very one-sided, but in the industry it's really not. Like, it's there's a lot of people with a lot of very different opinions, and yeah, it's really not this cut and dry oftentimes, but yeah.
Luckily though, in the actual studios, from what I understand, is that those different ideas are tolerated and shared and discussed, and it's quite on the whole, it's quite a nice place to work, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the games industry is like one of the greatest jobs in the world. That's the thing. That is the bizarre thing about this discussion more than anything. I think that's the thing that really annoys me about it the most. Is not the fact that people are talking about it. We should have open discussions about this, but the job is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we're making these things which people are enjoying. We're having a great time doing it as passionate, like really talented people coming together to make a product that millions of people are going to enjoy. And that is just like the most rewarding thing in the world. And then, but if you go and look at like how journalists cover that, like they sort of make it out like we're all chained to our desks and getting whipped and stuff like this. And it's like, that's really not what is happening, guys. Like, we get like thousands of dollars in bonuses a year. You know what I mean? Like, we get good salaries, like really good salaries. We're given choices if we want to work overtime or not. Like, there's fruit, like in the cafeterias. We have cafeterias, right? Like, there's free fruit, gyms, and like there's gyms. And like free like benefits like wherever we go and stuff, and we get healthcare and life insurance, goodie bags, and we have these massive events where we're celebrated, like constantly celebrated. I mean, it's to the point that it gets annoying sometimes, that it feels like almost fake at times, but because it's so often. All this sort of stuff, like, and we're making these awesome products that our names are in credits, and we're being like, you know, sort of immortalized in credits on these products that we're making. All this sort of stuff, like, it's an amazing thing. And then, like, the way Jason Schreier like talks about it is just like, what?
Like a cesspit sort of thing.
It's just
in a dungeon.
It's bizarre. It's really bizarre, and it's that disconnect which I hope, because it's not one or the other either. It's not a perfect industry, and it's not like a bleak industry either. Like, I just wish we would talk about the gray area a little bit more, but we don't.
Yeah.
Like, it gets ignored because the devs themselves are just ignored, and it's bizarre. It's really, really strange to me.
Yeah, I think we need some more documentaries, like proper impartial documentaries around the games industry. But obviously, the studios don't want what the reality of things are to be portrayed. The studios want like the polished version. Everything's amazing, right?
I think it's a little bit more to do with the fact that they don't want like company secrets getting out, which is like how they make games and stuff, because everyone's like the way that the engines work and like their methodologies of how they get stuff done. Like, they don't want to just preach that out to the world, sort of thing. But go ahead.
But those company meetings where you're sat there and you're just with some really talented people, and everyone's throwing something into the ring, and then you will come up with a compromise, and it's like better than the sum of, it's better than the sum of all your parts. Like, you've made something that's better than you could possibly do by yourself. That's just absolutely magical. That's like proper good stuff. And that's what I've seen in the games industry, is what happens by the bucket load in comparison to other companies I work for. It's like a hierarchy, and it's just like it's like a race to the top, and however high up the food chain you are is your worth. But like with games, it seems like the best idea wins, which doesn't really happen in a lot of other industries that I've worked in. It's like you have to work towards this person's way of working, or this is what this person values, so therefore that's what the company values, and things like that. And games seems to be a lot more like the best idea wins, everyone has a fair say, and like everyone gets a fair shot at things, which is what I really love about it.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is more about the ideas than anything. And when you go into them rooms and you come out and everyone's like, all right, I'm feeling good about this now. This we're making an awesome game. Like, this is going to be great.
It's very exciting.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's so many good aspects to the games industry that just, like, I know people know about them and stuff. It's just...
I think we need more of that, because that's good. That's the good stuff. That's like humans being the best human, right? That's what I want to see. That's where I want a fly on the wall to be. Like,
yeah, and
capturing
like
that magic.
And people are like using that. Like, they imagine that, and then like someone works like 2 hours overtime or whatever, and like it's being labeled as crunch culture, and we need to unionize and all that sort of stuff. Oh, the games industry is terrible, sort of thing. Compare that bit to like someone working in a cubicle, working 8 hours a day, absolutely miserable, like just hating their existence constantly, just like, oh my god, like I have to sell this subscription magazine to this like old lady that really doesn't want this thing, and like, but she's almost in, so I've got to like bury my soul somewhere. And like, tell me what's more degrading, seriously. Like, if it's the like, you know what I mean? Like, this is it blows my mind. Like, it just blows my mind.
I can't talk about that, Vin.
Yeah,
I can't talk about that, Vin.
You don't work in a cubicle, do you? Is it actually a cubicle? Do you actually work in a cubicle?
No, but we've got these COVID panels that are see-through.
So it's becoming more of a cubicle as the days go by.
Yeah.
That's depressing. Not because of the job. I mean, just like the aspect of that. I mean, just stay on, man.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, anyway.
But that sounds like a horrible time from what you're describing. That I have no experience in.
Yeah, anyway, so to sort of wrap this up, like, just listen to the devs a little bit more. That'd be great. And I'm not just talking about the directors, like Schofield or whatever, like actual people in the pit, like, that are working on this sort of stuff, like in the middle of it, just like, hey, how's it going? Like, do you still love your job? I guarantee you put that mic in their face and I'm like, yes, it's the greatest job in the world.
And listen to them saying about why, and that's where the good stuff is. We need more of that. So what are we going to go into what we've been playing then? You've been playing nothing, right?
I mean, we were going to mention this whole UK competition regulation thing. We'll skip this for this week because I know you've been playing.
They could owe you £500,
maybe.
That's probably never going to happen.
No, like, to sort of
charging 30%. That's the headline.
Yeah, the headline is basically like every single sort of game publisher, like, platform, like, in the industry right now, that's Apple, Microsoft, PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam, like, all of those guys. Like, whenever you put a game onto the store, it costs like 30% of the income that you get from that game goes to the platform. That's industry standard pretty much across the board. There's a couple of other people that go a bit lower and a couple of people that go higher, but it's 30%. Like, that's the well established one. There is a law firm in the UK that is currently challenging that and saying it's too much. Some people might agree, some people might disagree.
Yeah,
and it's just being challenged right now, and if he wins,
their argument is that Sony's the market leader, and so therefore they're the most responsible. Okay, fine.
I don't.
How far that goes down.
I don't completely agree with that either, because like, I'm pretty sure Steam has more users, but yeah, it's just it's a funny old business. But yeah, he's basically challenging that, and then if they win, people in the UK actually get a payout for it, which is like between £67 and £500 or something.
Or like even I heard like somewhere between £5 and £500 or something.
Yeah,
so
something like that. But yeah,
it probably won't happen. I'd be very surprised.
I'd be really shocked if it happened. It's not going to happen. No.
But it's good that due legal process is happening, and
no, it's good to challenge.
We live in a world where these things can play out in the legal system. So yay democracy. So yeah, what have you been playing, Vin? Anything?
I have been playing. Probably the most ridiculous game in human history, but I've been actually really enjoying it. Which,
the lawnmower simulator?
No, it's probably more ridiculous than that, actually. No, it's not actually that bad. It's I actually mentioned it in the last episode and I showed it as well, which is the Crayon Shin-chan, what you call it, like my summer vacation thing.
Yes. That doesn't seem that ridiculous. That looks really lovely. It looks.
It feels like
nice and anime and comfort food.
It feels like you're playing an anime. That's the best way
Yeah.
to describe it. But like the main reason why I'm playing it is I'm playing it in Japanese at the moment because I'm using it as like a practicing tool, and it's really built for like kids basically. And it's just all you really do is like you're just going through every single day of your summer as a kid in this like sort of Inaka town in Japan, and you're like collecting, like you're catching bugs and you're fishing and you're doing like little side missions with people, but you get so used to the town and like all the different spaces in it that you're able to sort of get certain things done at certain times, and like time actually goes down as you're like every time you go from one window to another, because it's kind of like old school. I better just show it on screen actually so people have a good reference. Because it's sort of like old school, like you have one sort of closed frame, like when you go off to the edge of it, like you go to the next space. When you do that, like your sort of health meter goes down, or your energy meter, I guess, and you need to like eat some snacks or whatever to like put it back up so you can still run around. And every time you go through a screen, it also like takes time down a little bit, so you can only get so much done in each day. So it's basically you're just trying to like have a nice summer vacation. That's it. But it's a gorgeous game. Like the way that it looks, it like the backgrounds on it are all pre-rendered and painted. Like they look like like an anime is the best way to describe it. But super chill, really wholesome game. The main character is absolutely ridiculous. Like he talks in this really weird dialect, and it's just fun. Like I'm having a great time with it, and I'm learning a lot of Japanese from it, which is awesome.
And it's on the Switch, right?
It is on the Switch. Yeah, it's on the Switch. I think they've actually just released the English version of this game. So it might be a good one for your boy, I guess. It's on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. It might be on Xbox as well. It's definitely on Steam as well. But yeah, so check it out if you're into that sort of stuff, especially if you're into like people that are into Japanese culture and stuff. They might know about Crayon Shin-chan. Like they might already know who he is. He's just like got this really weird deformed face. Got
a weird head.
Yeah, and it's like huge ears and stuff, and he talks really funny. He's just a goofy kid. And yeah, it's like there's a lot of puns in the game as well. Like he mishears stuff, and like he sort of like just repeats back to what he thinks he heard, and it's always wrong and stuff. And it's just a cute little game. Like people should check it out, especially if people know who Crayon Shin-chan is, and if they've ever heard of the Bakuno no Natsuyasumi games, like the My Summer Vacation games. Like it's made by the same people. But yeah, other than that, man, that's pretty much the only thing I've been playing. I've been super busy, but yeah, I'm having a bunch of fun with that one.
Good, that sounds good. I might check that out with my lad. So I again talked about this last week, so I've been playing it over like 3 weeks. I finished The Last Guardian.
Oh yeah,
which and if Vin's wearing the t-shirt,
I am actually wearing the t-shirt.
What does it translate to again?
Yeah, it's like Toriko. So Toriko is like the name of the beast, and it's like big eagle man-eater is like the best way to sort of describe it. It sounds better in Japanese. That's all I know. But like when you read it out in English, it sounds silly.
It sounds silly, yeah. But yeah, I think it's the best example I can think of where a character design has completely and utterly immersed itself into gameplay. Like the character design and gameplay, just the best example. Like if you're going to design a character and design gameplay loop around it, even at the ending, like it's fresh at the end as well, which I was really shocked about. Wasn't expecting, and it was, yeah, I just loved it. It was amazing and really emotional. And which I thought was going to happen, and shocking, and like even the animation ramps up towards the end as well, which usually is just, again, that's surprising. Usually it kind of tapers off, like they leave the best stuff for the middle and the beginning to get you hooked. But like the cutscene, the animation stuff was really good at the end. And what else did I want to say about it? Yeah, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they need a 60 FPS version for the PS5, please.
Yes,
please. Like just the 30 FPS lock is killing me. Like I would love to play this game in full.
The only thing I could say is that they could strip out some and make it a bit more modern standard gameplay features would make it a bit more universally appealing.
Yeah, there's a couple of quality of life.
Nice way to put it.
There's probably a couple of quality of life things that they could probably.
I'm just talking, just place some freaking ladders here, there, and everywhere, or like color some things that need to be more obvious. Like just use some color, like just use some regular normal game like design techniques.
I like that they don't do that though. I think that's one of my favorite things about the game is that I mean everyone's gonna like have different thoughts on this, but
where that line gets drawn.
And there is a lot of stuff because I think they do like paint some edges on this. I can't remember, like there was white edges on stuff maybe
sometimes, but it's inconsistent.
So but like I also don't want it to be like Uncharted where like just everything is yellow.
Everything's just like yellow or neon or something stupid. I think there's a grey area there. And some of it was just some of it could have just been stripped down. Like some of the repetition didn't add to the emotion. So like literally you could just take out some bits and pieces here and there and like bring it down a couple of hours. I think that would have been, and it would have been better. A tiny bit chunky. But saying that, it's not that chunky compared to a lot of other AAA games. So
yeah, this is true.
Yeah,
so I need
to. It's really slim AAA, like in comparison to modern AAA games. It's really slim.
Yeah, I need to replay this thing. Like I'm really hoping that they.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna leave it until this like Tokyo Game Show is next week. I think it is. So like I'm gonna wait for this Tokyo Game Show, and if it still hasn't had an update, then I'm gonna like pull the trigger and actually just replay it again because I had a lot of fun.
And the other thing that was in the Gamescom that's been announced is Grounded, the survival Honey I Shrunk the Kids survival game.
Yeah, I do remember this.
The actual game's releasing properly on the 27th of September, but I've been playing it on Game Pass, the early access version. Right. So it's a bit buggy, but buggy.
I got you. It was good.
It was good the first time when we did it in the pre-show.
Yep.
It's just as funny now. Really love it. Super well balanced. It hooks you in. Onboarding is just skimming that really tight area of like, it's too complicated. I don't know what to do. Or like, I'm not quite sure what I need to do, but I think I need to do this. I'm enjoying that aspect. It's not too hand-holdy. So yeah, it's just got that perfect
What do you actually
balance.
do in it? Is it a run and gunner, or is it like an arena shooter, or what? Like survival game?
No,
like I don't know.
It's a survival game. So you've got the day and night cycle. So you've got to build your weapons. You've got to build your armor. You've got to build lights. You can build a little house. You've got to explore and find new things. And different areas of the garden have got different resources. And so you've got to go from one area to the other area to the other area. And the story is that you're finding chips for this mysterious scientist that's gone missing.
Right.
And you can play online as well. So it's like a multiplayer online game. So you can like hoard your assets. So one person can go on one side, another person can go somewhere else, and you can like hoard your stuff and share things. I think.
Nice.
Haven't tried that out. Just been playing single player.
Yeah.
And like stuff's, some of it's scary. Not from like a, oh my god, this is terrifying, but more like a, if I die, my spawn point is all the way over the other side of the map, and I've got to walk for like 3 hours in the dark, and I don't have any torches. I can't die, because otherwise it's going to mean that it's going to feel like a real consequence. So it's like a real like scared for the consequences kind of game, rather than good like tension. Oh, this is scary.
Yeah.
So good tension, and they properly. That's what I'm talking about. The balance, like they've got that amount of balance, like where everything's located is just in that sweet spot where I keep wanting to go back and go, if I just get that thing, I can unlock this ladybird armor.
Yeah.
And so highly recommend that. It's really good fun.
I'll have to try it out. I know it's on Game Pass, so I should get around to it because it's free. So
it's free. Just like try it for an hour, see what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out and see how it goes. Cool.
So yeah, I'm back on Game Pass, and I'm back on the PlayStation subscription thing.
Yeah, they've been adding stuff to the subscription stuff for Sony, thankfully, but like they're just completely neglecting the classic stuff, which is the main reason why I was subscribed to the PlayStation thing. But I will not be subscribing to the premium tier. Hopefully
forward. That'll come out when I've heard the Metal Gear Solid remasters are going to be happening, aren't they? So hopefully,
excuse me,
bless you. Hopefully they'll be on the the PlayStation subscription.
I don't think so. I think that it's going to be $70 and they're going to milk it because that's what they do these days, especially with things like Last of Us Part 1, and everyone's buying it because we knew it was going to happen. Yep.
That's true.
To each their own. It's their money. They can do what they want, but they're insane. I'm going to wait for a sale. I mean, I will play The Last of Us Part 1, and I would play a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. I think that's a bit more warranted to the full price because it's just so damn old at
so
this
much
point.
more work.
Yeah, it's a lot more work. So if they remade that, then I'd be like, all right, that's fair enough. Like that's worth the full price. But for something like The Last of Us, I just don't
you wouldn't
think
be able
it's
to.
worth
You could only use the stuff as reference, right? Like the models.
you couldn't use anything.
You couldn't
nothing. Like you couldn't use.
You couldn't
anything.
retexture anything. No,
not at all. Like you might be able to use like the font if you could upscale it. I don't know. That'd be about it. But yeah,
this is easy enough to just do a new font.
Yeah,
they probably wouldn't do that. Yeah. Anyway, okay, that was a good episode.
Yeah. We should wrap this up.
Thank you for sticking with us. Where can we find? Vin is also an indie game dev. He's working on his little puzzle game, Long Gone. Where can we find that information?
Yeah, if you Google it, you can find it. Like I finally hit the front page of Google, which is awesome at this point. But yeah, Long Gone game. You can also find it on Steam. You can wishlist it there, which will be awesome. But you can also find me on Twitter, which is @HillFortGames. I post all stuff about the game there. I haven't really posted that much over the last couple of weeks because I've been really, really busy. But stuff's going to start coming in over the next week, I hope. So you can keep up to date with it there. But for the most part, just follow me on Twitter. I think that's the main place that'll be. But we also do a indie game roundtable, which we're actually going to be recording one this week. So make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can be sort of informed to see what we have actually been up to on our games, especially Long Gone and Chris's game, Focus Find. But speaking of which, where can people find you, sir?
So yes, I'm making an indie game called Focus Find. You can wishlist it on Steam. You can follow me on Twitter, Acrylic Pixel. And I've got a YouTube channel, Acrylic Pixel, and a Patreon as well, Acrylic Pixel, which I've kind of paused the subscription because I haven't been doing any videos for it recently because I've been too busy. Similar sort of situation to Vin, I think. But I should be coming back onto that hopefully soon. So yeah, stay tuned for this channel where we're going to talk about that this week. Like, comment, subscribe to let us know how you're liking the videos thus far. It helps with the algorithm and helps promote us. So if you just want to be like, hey, this was good, chuck us a thumbs up and share it with a friend or whatever.
Yeah, we wouldn't mind making some money off this one day. So yeah, that would help. That would be fun. And yeah, maybe we'll be back next week, but maybe there'll be another wedding that crops up. Who knows? God, hopefully so. I hope not. Damn weddings, they're everywhere. People, stop being happy. Stop being happy, humans. God damn it. But yeah, anyway, we'll let you guys get out of here. Thank you as always. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.